Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories. And if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. And let's crack on with today's first story. Much love, guys. Now today's first story comes from SadAd4267 from the Relationship Advice subreddit and says, I, 25 male, refuse to forgive my family sisters, 33 female, 31 female, and my parents, 63 female and 60 male, until they pay me back my inheritance they spent on themselves. I, 25 male, am the youngest of 3 siblings, 33 female and 31 female. My parents, 63 female and 60 male, are owners of a grocery store that was passed down through my father's side of the family for generations. My grandparents on both my dad and mum's side left me and my siblings each a college/trust fund of $100K. Each of my sisters blew through their money and dropped out of college. Both of them became single mothers to my 3 nieces, 10 female, 8 female, and 7 female, and came back to work for my parents' store. I was the only kid who didn't work for my parents' business, as I got a job as a landscaper for the summers and after school throughout my entire high school years and saved up about $20K. I got accepted into college on a partial scholarship, and I was beyond thrilled because I knew I had a great opportunity to leave college debt-free and own my own home by the time I was 22. Just as my sisters did when they turned 18, I asked my parents to turn over access to the trust, as I wanted to have the money under my control, just like my sisters did. That's when my parents told me we would discuss this at dinner tonight. So at the dinner, my whole family was there, including my nieces. When it was time to talk about my trust, my dad and mum asked me if I would consider holding off on accessing the trust for 2 years, as they had to use some of the money to cover some of the healthcare and living costs of their grandkids, and also pay off a lawsuit that my sister Gloria received for a DUI. I asked how much they used, and my mum said there is currently $5K left in the account. So they spent $95K, and none of it went to me. My dad said that you need to just think about your family and understand that we need your help in this request. I said, isn't it great that everyone benefited from this money besides the person it was intended for? Gloria and Laurie got to go to college and travel the world with their money, while with my money, I got to pay for all their mistakes. My last words to my family were that this was not a request, as the decision was already made and I moved out and left. I still went to college as I had a partial scholarship, and over those years I used money I had in my savings to start my own landscaping business, which employs 6 guys, and we are doing great. I never got a chance to spend any of the money my grandparents left for me, as my parents never built back up the trust. 2 years ago, I found out from my lawyer when I sent a formal request to access the trust that the current balance was $3,456.13. Less than $5K my parents told me about. My sisters and parents have tried to reconnect through the years, but I have always resent every gift, letter, and invitation they have sent me back to them. I'm getting married next month, and Fiancee wants to meet my family and help me close this chapter in my life. My fiance wants me to forgive and move on, as I haven't spoken to them in years. But Reddit, am I in the wrong for telling my fiance sorry, but I cannot move on from this? Now, I didn't know the full legalities of a trust, etc. All I can compare it to, and obviously I'm based in the UK, so again, it might be completely different, is when I was dealing with my father's estate and, and how I was told about the legalities of it, of I need to ensure whatever money is there needs to be split equally between the people in the will. If I don't, I will be legally responsible for that. So in some ways, I'm quite surprised your lawyer hasn't said anything along those lines, that, they are legally liable to give you that money. Again, I don't know the legal side of a trust compared to what I dealt with. But your fiance saying that they want you to forgive and move on because you haven't spoken to them in years, it doesn't even sound like they've apologized. And when your parents said about holding off access to the trust for 2 years, my assumption then is that they was going to top it back up, which they haven't done, which I feel like if they were sorry, they would have tried to make it up to you in some kind of way. They would have actually done what they was going to and start filling that money back up, passing you that money that is owed to you. But Lemerck says, someone steals 100K from me. No shot in hell they get to stay in my life. You are all adults. Obviously, this is just my opinion, but there is more than enough reason to not trust these people in your life who would ever get that money back. And the fact that the amount now has gone down instead of up when they promised to eventually pay you back says they also lied to you. Good on you for moving on without them and doing well. You did enough for them without your consent already. Side note, I would drain what is left there if you can. It is still your money. The last Baslope says, tell your fiancé that you understand they think they're doing something good, but that you need them to respect your decisions regarding your family, and understand that pushing you to reconcile is not what you want and not what you need, and that this is the only time you will discuss it with them, and warn them to never try to go behind your back to contact them and ambush you with them, because if they do, you will divorce and cut them off too. Opie says, trust me, I've told my fiancé in very explicit language that if she ever decided to surprise or force a reunion with me and my family, I will consider that as an act of betrayal, and she would not be forgiven. Since she has seen how I do not even talk to my own family, she knows I'm completely serious. She has tried and currently is trying to get me to soften my stance, but I'm not open to reconciliation with words at the moment. Once my trust fund is back funded where it was 8 years ago, then I will reconcile with words. Right now, actions do all the talking for me. Learns from experience says you can't forgive if someone hasn't asked for forgiveness and sincerely apologized. Until there's some acknowledgement that they basically stole from you and have set up some means to start paying you back, I'd shine them on. Life's too short to deal with selfish people you can't trust, and it's 10 times worse when those people are your family. Opie says, me and my parents spoke 2 years ago after I hired a lawyer to actually sue them. They apologized and explained that they had to make some tough decisions and would hope I would give them the opportunity to make it right. I of course said you guys had the opportunity over the past 3 years, at the time, and my trust fund is still not back at what you promised it would be. They said times are hard and they're working on it. I asked as my parents, how do you justify sacrificing my future to pay for their other kids' mistakes, and why wasn't I asked before they made the decision to empty my account? They really could not give a good answer. I cried and basically said you did a great thing for your daughters, but a horrible thing to your only son. Basically left me on my own to figure it out. We've not spoken since. And then there was a bit of a string of comments. The WA mama says, can you put a lien on your parents' business? Opie says I would not do that as the business employs a lot of people who truly need that money to survive. 2 years ago I started the process of filing a lawsuit and hired a lawyer and everything, but ultimately I put the suit on hold as the pandemic and the economy was affecting everyone really bad. I'm blessed that my business has flourished the way it has to allow me to afford to make those kind of decisions. Pre this, reply set saying a lien wouldn't shut the business down, it would make sure you got paid first out of their estate when they pass, if they went bankrupt or if they try to sell the company. Opie says, yes, you are correct. Nevertheless, I want to keep this away from the store, if that makes sense. The business cannot be sold without majority family approval. A lien is very much possible, but I do not want to go that route, as for me, that is the last option. We have some employees who have worked for that store for 40 years. Think small town America family grocery store. And Notorious Dad replies to that saying, yes, you're being naive. Your family has already conspired once to deprive you of your fair share of your inheritance. Selling the business with majority family approval means that they can make a decision without you, keeping you in the dark until the sale is approved and denying you participation. You'll be without any share of the store's sale and without recovering their theft. I put a lien on the business, including the property. That will prevent the sale and assure that the debt is resolved. I'd also have them put their shares or interest in the business in your name and agree in writing to return their interest once your inheritance is restored. Jen says if they draw a wage, you can look into garnishing their wages. And a final reply from OP that says, Jen, legally I can force the issue like a hammer. However, the collateral damage is not something I'm ready to assume responsibility for. Why do I have to be the bad guy to force them to do the right thing? I struggle immensely over the moral question to force this issue in the courts. The store has nothing to do with their actions, and I know it sounds naive, but I've made the moral decision to try at all costs to keep the store out of this for now. Some of my close friends' family members work for the store to this day. My family knows this, and I believe this is why this has dragged on for so long. Side note, no one in the family can take a wage higher than $85,000 while working for the store. All additional profits must be invested back into the business. So OP does come back in to update their post. He said, so much has happened that I think the best way to do this is to put this in key points and answer in the comments. Thank you to everyone who sent me direct messages and wrote me in the comments. The thread was locked after 4 hours of it being posted, so it blew up fast, and I know everybody did not get a chance to comment last time. As a result, my inbox was flooded, so I wanted to give the best update I could because so many of you took an interest in my story. What has happened since? Fiancée admitted to speaking with my family on Facebook Messenger, and they also spoke in person. When she said they met each other in a restaurant, happened a month ago. Fiancée said it was very emotional. I told my fiancée I'm extremely disappointed that she withheld this information from me for a month. Fiancée told me she felt guilty and afraid to tell me because she thought I might break up with her and cancel the wedding if I found out. She wanted to wait till after the wedding to tell me. However, yesterday my mum called her directly, begging her to help me reunite our family. She missed so much of my life and she doesn't want to miss another milestone, the wedding. Fiancee knows she has violated my trust and gave me the most heart-melting, sincere apology I ever heard in my life and asked for forgiveness. She even had her parents ask me to forgive her and not cancel the wedding. My mum and dad told me they loved me and hope I could move past this. Her dad loves me. He literally has a picture of me in his office. Just me and him, lol. Introduces me as his son for the past 2 years. He cried and said he doesn't want to lose me as a son. I forgave my fiancé. Sisters came to my business with my nieces and desperately wanted to talk. Sisters deeply regret their part in the decisions that were made on their behalf. Want to be a family again. They understand my position and anger, but they miss me and want me back in their lives. My nieces also asked why I don't come around anymore, and am I mad at them? Sisters explained this has destroyed our parents' marriage, as it has now come out that my mum apparently spent the majority of the money without my dad knowing. And then when he found out, my mum wanted dad to say it was both of their decision because she believes if it came out that it was her that decided by herself and not my dad. That I would never forgive her no matter what and would disown her because I always accused her of playing favourites. To be honest, she is right, I would have disowned her. My mum pleaded with my dad to cover for her decision to empty my fund. Dad was furious but decided to say he and mum decided to spend the money. Dad now resents our mum because he no longer has a relationship with his only son. He only hears from his friends how great a relationship me and father-in-law have. I call father-in-law Dad, he calls me his son. Dad told my mother either she fixes this or he is done with her and he is telling me the truth. I told my sisters that I loved them and my nieces and I do not hate them. However, they helped rob me of a very important gift that our grandparents gave each of us, and I missed out on life experiences they got to experience, and I did not. It is like they stole my last gift that our grandparents left for me. We all cried and I accepted their apology, but I told them I do not know how to let go of this resentment I feel towards them. I let them know our relationship will take time to rebuild. I asked them to set up a meeting with just me and Dad and not my mum. I met with my dad alone. My dad was shocked that I requested the meeting. He looked defeated and asked to speak first. My dad told me he has been depressed for the last few years and feels like he truly failed me as a father, and he knows he betrayed me, and as a father he must take that to his grave that he is the reason his son hates him. He said he is extremely jealous of the relationship I have with my father-in-law, and he just started crying for like 3 minutes straight. I told him I know it was mum who decided to spend the money. I told him I understand why he didn't throw mum under the bus, but he deeply hurt me by covering mum's decision this long. I told him I love him and said he doesn't owe me anything anymore. He is done owing mum's debt. We both cried and hugged for like 5 minutes. I invited him, my sisters, and my nieces over to dinner at my place that night without mum. I let my sisters and my dad know if they came to dinner with mum with them that this would be the last time we speak. My mum clearly found out about the reunion without her and wanted to speak. I refused her request and told her to please bring a check for 100k if you want to talk to me. My wedding is on September 3rd and I have since invited everyone but mum. My sisters want me to hear mum's side of the story. My dad has said he is done covering for my mum's decisions. My fiancée is happy and supports my decision 100%, even though I know she wants me to meet with my mother. She just got forgiven herself. She doesn't want to push. Reddit. Should I meet with my mum before or after she hands me the check for 100k? I'm not sure how I felt at the end of this one. It's like OP's a very, very forgiving person clearly in this. And it's clear that the mum was the main one in the wrong within this story, but it seems like they've all had some sort of part to play in it. And no one seems to have taken any responsibility for the decisions that's happened in the past either. No one said, oh yeah, we'll get what we can to you or anything like that. It's just sort of like, forgive us, let's move on, let's crack on with this now, let's move past. It just felt like throughout it all, there was no effort at all. How many years has it been? Was it 6 or 7 or something like that? And not even a penny's been put back into that trust. In fact, some was taken out. I know people struggling, etc., but if you're trying to rebuild anything with your son who's got no contact with you, surely you'd try to fix the situation that was created rather than do the complete opposite of it. But I don't know. What do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And let's move on to another story. And some people have been asking for a couple of little stories from the Entitled People subreddit. And I saw this one today. It's a UK-based story. It's about B&Q, which is like a DIY hardware store, if you like. Sells tools, paints, gardening stuff, all the usual stuff, right? It's from Averagely Brilliant, who says, strange behavior in B&Q. I went to my local DIY store to get a few things yesterday. When I got to the checkout, there was a man in front of me explaining something to the checkout woman. I didn't hear what was said, but the gist of it was that he wanted her to save his place in the queue while he went and got something he had obviously forgotten. As he walked away, the woman shrugged and pointed at the queue as if to suggest she couldn't hold up other customers for him. He walked away, leaving his items on the conveyor, and the checkout woman gestured me to come forward. I paid for my items very quickly, and as I was waiting for the receipt, Chummy returned. Chummy. As I walked away, he said to anyone who might want to listen, "Well, either I lost my place in the queue, or people chose not to listen," implying that the entire queue should have been held up for His Majesty. I nearly turned around to tell him to calm down and be nice, but I suddenly got a very real sense saying something would not have been helpful. As I left and returned to my car, he hadn't come out of the store. I wonder whether he made an enormous fuss about it and demanded to see the manager. It's getting worse. This unearned sense of entitlement or self-importance seems to be growing like a malignancy in the UK. People have lost all sense of courtesy and fair play. I notice it on the roads especially. People do some really stupid things that have no grounding in common sense. Naive adds a similar story on the back of that and says, had a similar yesterday in Lidl, which is just like a supermarket. I joined the shortest queue. Woman with trolley was pottering about the lane. Looked like she was still shopping. Lidl has a space between the shopping aisles and lane and checkout. She then rams the trolley up beside me in a very loud voice. She just walked in front of me and took my place. I ignored her, she wasn't in the queue. She was looking at the queue while in the aisle and looking at crisps, or chips in the US. She continued about her place being stolen while I was served and is probably talking about it now. In general, people have become rude and aggressive to customer service and others even. Walking down a path, I'm not looking where I'm going because I'm on my phone watching TikTok Brigade. The parent giving a baby or a toddler a phone so they didn't have to engage with them. And blare out Cocomelon and dribble. There is an epidemic of rudeness and me culture. It is really sad. People just don't care. Opie replies to that saying, it reminds me of a time I went up to an empty till and started emptying my groceries onto the conveyor. A voice from behind said, "What's your game?" It left about 6 or 7 items stored on a large bulkhead built next to and high above the conveyor. Usually used for items that people have decided not to buy when they got to the till. He grabbed them and put them in front of my stuff on the conveyor. I said, "Why did you leave them up there if you were coming back?" The belt was empty. He said nothing after he noticed that his "What's your game?" had attracted a bit more attention than he wanted. This was a few years ago and was probably the first time I'd experienced this kind of thing. The difference now is that people are less inclined to back down and more willing to escalate. One weird interaction that I had, and I may have told this one before, it was around sort of Christmas time, and I don't know, it's in a shop called Tesco's, which is like a local supermarket, food, all that sort of stuff. And it was sort of like the week up to leading to Christmas, and people were doing some of their Christmas shopping, like they weren't getting the complete fresh stuff. So there's quite a lot of people in there looking around, and for some reason there was like pre-packaged salmon slices, and there was a crowd. I mean, like a proper crowd at the very end of the aisle. There was like a little fridge unit at the end that had the salmon in, and they were waiting for this person to come out and restock. And when this person come out, the people were like going into his trolley, grabbing it out. They were shouting at each other, and I just think, what the fuck, man? It was so weird to see. It just reminded me of like those videos you see online about like Black Friday sales when people will run through the door and they're like ripping the TVs off each other and chucking them about. It was just crazy. And you could just hear, "Get off my fucking salmon." There was a whole bunch of drama after it. Like it went on like the local Facebook group, and it was like, people need to be more considerate of others. I didn't get my salmon. Gonna have to go to another supermarket now, ain't I? Oh man, the world is just wild, isn't it? Anyway, I don't know where I was going with that story. What do you guys make of this situation? Have you had yourself any weird little interactions in the supermarket? Don't forget to let us know down in the comments below. And just a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting involved in today's stories. Your love, your support, your time always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love.